Okay, so I'm going to do a little streaming of my development of this game. Let me see here. Get this link. Okay, should be all set now. Here we go. All right. So this is for GitHub Game Offs. My development stream, I'm using SDL3 and Visual Studio 2022, but I program in C. I use C++ compiler, but I don't use C++. I do what most developers do, especially a Sean Barrett, if you listen to him at all. And we have a C++ compiler, but we use C. So right now, all we have is this. This is from an old game. This is from another game that I did. I just finished. So, but it has the buttons and stuff in there. So I gotta fix these up. Okay, so I need to get into this. And go to, where is it? There it is. In my resources. And so, background texture, we can ignore that. End of game screen. So we can just whack all of this. And I just use it as a hold placeholder. This is Ludum Dare font. Oh no, it's not. It's Nicholas. Never mind. Where's my Ludum Dare font? Nope, nope, nope. There it is. They call it Ludum Dare. Weird. So which screen is this? And this is a horrible color. And of game screen. I don't know what it's going to look like until I start developing the game. Game's going to be like Survivor IO and Diablo 3 and I don't know what else. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use a fill. What is this color here? Brilliant. There we go. So now we go to the text. Black. And text. Black. Come on. And what's going on here? Text. And oh, caps. And a game screen. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do something else. Don't save. I'm going to use this. And then I'll just put the screen names in here. So, end of save as, oops. Resources, end of game screen, replace. Okay. Let's try rule screen. Rule screen. Start of game screen. All right, let's see how this flies now. Start game, play, escape, roll screen, exit, end of game screen, replay. Okay. Exit. Okay, that's good. Okay, so now. What color should I make the game screen? Okay, so now what I need is the player. So let me see here. I'll open player title sheet. I really like this little guy, but this is all about square waves, so everything's going to be squares, hopefully. What is the size of this guy? What's the size of this thing? What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there's 6 guys here. What's the size of this image? This image is 288, so what is that? 48 by 48, is that right? 6 into 28 goes 4 times 48. So 48 by 48. Let's see what it says down here. 48. 48 is there. Height's 480, so it must be 480. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah. Okay. What do I make my sprites? And I don't make my sprites. I find, I go to places like Kenny. This here is called, this guy, little guy here is from Mystic Woods. And so I use that. I've used him in a lot of games. There was another one I found on, was it Game Art, free Game Art? That was just a stick guy, and I used him in a game. for a fishing game. He was pretty cool actually, and the animations were good. But I think I'm just going to use a square in this game and shoot with the square. No animations except for the firing of the bullets and stuff like that. So I think that's going to be it. Because I really am horrible at, art is not good, and music and sound is not good. I don't do either one. So, but I know where to get them. I know guys, Kevin MacLeod, he's really good at the music. In fact, this music in this game right now is Kevin MacLeod's music. This is Kevin MacLeod, this game. I've actually used this sound in a game before. Alright, so let's make a square and just get going here with this. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to save. Tile sheet save. File, open, recent. File, save as. Actually, just save it. Save. Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to make a 32 by 32 square, or maybe I don't know. We're going to blitz something up there. Select, and we're going to select red. Let's see what this is. 21, 28, 32 by 32. Brilliant. Angle, draw filled shape with outline. Yeah, that'll be good. So it'll be red with a white outline. Do I want that? Nope. I want black outline with red, I guess. So we're going to make this 32 by 32 and see how it looks on the screen. 31, 32, 32 by 32. Escape. File, save. Okay. Player texture, player texture. Alright, I'm just going to hard code this in here right now. Render clear. Render texture, main render, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to use the rest is, here we go. Let's do source. Source.x.s, yeah, that's it, equals source.y equals 0. Source.width equals source dot height equals destination dot width equals destination dot height equals 32. animation dot x equals 1920 divided by 2 plus, or no, is that minus 16, minus 16. So it should be, then put that in the center of the screen. So destination dot y equals 1080. Not much of a typist. After 40 years of programming, you'd think I would be. Minus 16. So the address of SRCE. The address DST. By the way, since you're using SDL3, how do you handle animations? I have a structure. I have this structure called animation. I have X amount of sprites. Which sprites? How many sprites are in the animation? Which current sprite I'm displaying in the animation? A frames timer. The time, so like 5, 6, 7 frames between when you switch sprites, and a frame timer, which tells me how many frames I've gone through until I've reached max frames, and I start over again. And then I have the sprite list, which is a list that I have. I have a table, and now what I do is I'll put a table of pointers. Actually, they're not pointers; they are coordinates. On that like sprite sheet you see there, there's going to be a set of coordinates to point to the player. And then if I wanted to do things like animate him, I would have these are X, Y, and width and height coordinates for this particular data type, which is SDL_FRECT, which is just a structure that shows that is there's X and Y and width and height. That's all this does. It's a float. And then you just point to those on the on this. So this would be frame 1, and then I would have another one, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, frame 5. So if we take a look at the other one, open recent, this here. So this guy would be frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, frame 5, frame 6, and I would use the my animation structure to do that. And I would just keep track of these and have timers in between, as when you would switch to the next one to give it animation. And this is the idle animation on top. This is a walking, and so with a walking animation, you just flip whenever he's going to the right, this would be left alone. Going to the left, you flip it. This is walking away. This is walking forward. And then this is battle here, and like that. And then this looks like dying. Not doing good, brother. So anyway, let's see how this works. Where's my game loop at? Game loop, there it is. Okay, so no errors. Oops. Wrong texture. It's supposed to be player texture. Where are you at? Player texture. Let's try this now. Actually, that's about the right size. Now I've got to get him to move in the direction of the mouse. So we're not going to use this. This is just, I just want to see what it looked like, and it doesn't look bad. Looks about the right size. What if I was to increase the size of him? Let's do this. So the source stays the same. The destination equals 32, then we'll scale it up times 2. Times 2. Minus 16 times scale. Times 2. Times 2. Alright. Problem is, I don't. Okay, so I'm gonna say SDL. So rather float equals 1.0. Okay, so is that right? What? Oops. Can't forget those semicolons. How about this? Let's see if it looks like when its scale is 0.5. So that'll be interesting. Oh! Okay. So I need to make a file, add new item, source file, player handler. Okay, so I have another. Let's do this. Where's a knit? So let's call this player initiate. Pointer game info GI pointer. Oops. Return true. Player update. Update player render. Okay. Player initiate. structure. Player info, scale. I don't need this platform table. Current platform, last platform. Global position, local position. Yep, you know we're going to do that. We're going to keep that. Do I have it in my player? There he is, right there. There's the animations right there. Player idle, player run. So, this is what I'm going to do. Here is so player initiate. I don't need this. Well, it's okay. You know what? Player info pointer. PI pointer equals the address of GI pointer to GI underscore player. So where are you at? Oh, passed it. Player. Okay, so PI pointer PI underscore scale equals PI pointer PI underscore. Okay, so we have an animation here. Okay, so we have an AI pointer. Pointer ANIM underscore INFO. AI pointer. AI pointer equals. I work a lot easier with pointers, so everything I convert to a pointer. And if you look at SDL3, all they use is pointers too. So just what you get used to equals that's a PI pointer PI underscore animation. Let's see if it kicks back. Yeah, it does. Okay. Because animation's already a pointer in player. Yep. So I have to. Okay, here we go. So in tables, start X is, start Y is 0, width is 32, length is 32, width and height, okay. So we have an extern. SDL underscore FRCT. Player ANIM. So we have a global position for the player, so I don't need any of this source stuff here. Don't need to scale. So PI pointer point to global position dot x equals you know what, I'm not gonna use any of this. Equals I'll get rid of all this, I'm just gonna redo it. Global position dot x equals 1920 divided by 2 what's the problem here? Okay. You know, I did this before. I got rid of the animation because it was just easier to do. It was just easier to do. When did I pick up game? Oh, I've been a programmer for over 40 years, almost 50 years. I started programming before C was a language. Well, I think C had just come out, maybe. But I started programming on an Atari 400 and a little membrane keyboard. So, and I first started programming little games on that, but nothing ever, there wasn't anything back then. There wasn't an internet, there wasn't anything. So everything was in books, so I have a huge library of books that I used to learn to program on the Atari. And then I tried to publish a game. It was the first one of its kind, really. Actually, maybe not the first one of its kind, but I called it Space Enemy. This was like 45 years ago. They used to have a game called on CompuServe called Mega Wars, which was a text-based game where you could play against each other. So, but I wanted to add text to it. So I bought an Atari 400, then I had a 130XE, and then I went to an Atari 520 ST, and then that actually had a C compiler. And so I wrote a game called Space Enemy where you could play another guy through a modem. And back then you didn't, like I said, you didn't have the internet. You had what was called BBS's, bulletin board systems. But you could link back and forth. We could call each other. So I could call his phone, and we could hook up. That's how you communicated through the for BBSs and stuff. And we played each other. And it was a game about flying around and shooting at each other. It was a fun game, and I tried to get it published. Back then it was Broderbund, and they told me that if this was for PCs, they probably would have published it. So I left the Atari, which is heartbreaking because I still love the Atari. And I went to PCs. I started programming PC, but I couldn't afford one, so I programmed on an old 8086 monochrome green and white monitor. Whew, man, those were the days. Anyway, so I wrote a business application. I tried to write a business application for someone in C, and then one day I was a waiter, and then one day I finally said, you know, to my wife, I said, I have to become a programmer somehow, some way. So we moved across the country from Colorado to Rhode Island, and then we moved from Rhode Island to Florida. Which is where I'm at now. And she found a headhunter, and I had a guy who was in a Unix shop, and I said they were they couldn't find C programmers. C programmers were almost non-existent. So I told him I could program in C, and me and my buddy, we went down there, and they gave us a test. My buddy passed the test. I flunked the test. I'm not a very good tester. I'm a really good programmer, but I'm a horrible tester. So I called up and I said, what happened? He said, you flunked the test. I said, that's not possible. I said, and I talked to him. I said, listen, let me come down on Monday, because it was on a Friday. I said, on Unix, yeah, I worked on Unix, AT&T, System 5, like that. And games for the Atari, yeah. None of them were published. I wrote articles. There was a magazine called ST something that I wrote an article. Anyway, so I told him I'd come down on Monday and I'll have something with me. So over the weekend, I wrote a program that put all this stuff on the screen, did all kinds of cool stuff, and then it was all in C. And I printed the whole program out, because floppy disk, where I was going, they wouldn't have used them. And I printed it out, showed it to him, showed him the program. I took my computer down, I took my TV down, I took everything down, because you didn't have monitors. Actually, no, I had a monitor for that one. And I took it all down, I showed him how it worked, I showed him the program, and he hired me. And that was it. And I worked on Unix boxes, I worked on HP Unix, I worked on SCO, I loved SCO. And then I went to work for the military as a government contractor for like 2 or 3 years. Had a clearance, and I worked on. I did whole systems for them, war game stuff. And then we opened up a computer store. Sold computers, and then one day a guy came in and says, "Listen, can you write a program that does this?" It was a low-level hook for hard drives, reading SMART, self-monitoring, analysis, and reporting technology. Nobody had anything for that, and I said, "Yeah, I think I can do that." He paid me $500. I wrote the program, and then we became partners. You can still see my software on the internet. If you go to what's the name of that? Hold on a second, I'll be right back. So anyway, I work for a company called DTI Data. They still have a website. My software's still up there. I wrote a piece of software called Recover It All. I was a tool writer, systems guy, for hard drives. I reverse engineered things like NTFS, reverse engineered the file system EXTFS 2 and 3 for Linux. And then I wrote tools so when somebody deleted something, I could piece it back together. I wrote the first piece of software called, it's a long time ago, MBR. All this stuff was published too in stores and stuff. I wrote MBR, which is Master Boot Record. Where back in the day when you had DOS 5.0 and like that, you could, nobody was doing it because they were actually, what they did was if a hard drive crashed, they would copy the files off onto another drive, and I figured out a way to rebuild the file system by hand. So I discovered a way to rebuild FAT32, FAT16, and FAT12 file systems in place, so it didn't have to do the copying. I would just fix them, and we sold a ton of software, ton of software, and then I don't know. I did that for the longest time. I wrote a lot of tools, and then once I went into business with this guy, the owner of DTI Data, and then he started moving into actually repairing the hard drives, which was a natural progression. And then the software kind of died out, and we had some other things that we did, but then I retired after 40 years as a coder. And now I do this. I do game jams. And listen, there's a lot of cool engines out there and stuff like that, but I never liked, my thing is coding, and I love to code, and I'm not really crazy about engines. Listen, Godot is cool. Godot is probably the easiest when it comes to workflow, but Unity is, problem with Unity is that it's a real memory hog. Not as bad as, it's not like as bad as Unreal. And I've tried all three, and Godot is the best, Godot is the easiest, and Godot was the funnest. But there's no coding, it's just scripting. You have a script that you write. There's no, I make a mistake in this program with a pointer, and I can bring the whole, I bring everything down. With a script, it's hard to do that, and I get that. You don't want the people wrecking your software, so anyway, global position, local position, and then we have SDL underscore FREC sprite list. Sprite list. Take this here. Okay, so let's just do this. So this is actually for the animation. So we have the sprite list. Okay. So we go back to player handler. I don't need this. And I don't need this. Until I write a library for the animation, I'm not using this. I just want absolute control and also enjoy to see how different things that engines would normally are done. That's basically the reason I don't use an engine. I'm the same way. I'm a big control freak, so this is part of it. Part of the reason why I became a programmer was having control of something. So yeah. I'm the same way. You have control of your creative. You have creative control. That's what you have. You have creative control, and that's important to me too as well. The only thing I don't know how to do yet, and it's really on Godot is really easy, is shaders. And shader language is just C. But the pipeline from the CPU to the GPU is complicated. And although SDL3 has a way to do it, I'd have to do like a couple of months of working with it. Maybe not even, maybe a month of working with shaders to see how they exactly work. But with Godot, man, you just say this texture, I want to do this with this texture, and off you go. And then you can go into Claude AI or ChatGPT and say, generate a shader that does this, and off you go. So global position is, that's going to be good enough. X. Screen. Where's screen width? Oh. Two. This here. Frames and timer. Right now we're going to have one. Frame timer equals 1 or 0. Max sprite equals 1. Current sprite, where's that? Equals 0. Max sprite, frames and timer. Oops, that's not correct. I do like 8 before it does the switch. Scale, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we update SDL underscore render texture ENDERT render texture GI pointer GI underscore main renderer GI pointer GI underscore player texture comma space. So pointer player info PI pointer equals the address of GI pointer GI underscore player. PI pointer PI underscore frame timer plus plus. If PI pointer PI frames and timer. PI pointer PI underscore frame timer equals 0. PI pointer PI underscore current sprite plus plus. This is all the animation logic here. PI pointer PI underscore if PI pointer PI underscore current sprite is greater than or equal to PI pointer PI underscore max sprites. Then PI pointer PI underscore current sprite equals 0. And then what we do is we render the source, which is the address of PI pointer point to sprite list, PI pointer point to PI underscore current sprite, comma, the destination, which is PI point, actually I have to fix this here. PI pointer, the address of PI pointer point to PI underscore goal position. Hello, how are you? And so we gotta do one other thing. PI pointer point to PI underscore global position dot width equals see, I hate this. Okay, I'm gonna put SDL underscore pointer SDL underscore frect source. I'm good, and you? I'm just wandering around looking at dev streams to get some motivation. I hear that, brother. I hear that. Everybody wants to do this Survivor IO thing, and you know what? I don't really like those kinds of games, but it was the easiest thing. If I could do something like a word game, that'd be cool. But how you get a word game with waves? Listen, waves is a good theme though. Anyway, so this can't be just source. So SI pointer. Nope, can't use that either. Let's just use source pointer. So source pointer equals this here, the address of control X, control V, and this will just be source pointer. So goal position out where equals source pointer point to what's going on here? Go on, man. Source pointer dot no. Source pointer is a pointer to an SDLF rect. So what's the oh, happy now? Pointing to width times PI pointer point to PI underscore scale. This is just update, right? So I don't render here. I render, yeah. So this just updates updates the sprite. Okay. Well, we're going to render here for now, and then I'll switch it. Dot height equals height times scale. Do I have a scale here? Yeah, let's make it smaller. Let's see if this mess will compile. Oh, it worked. Okay, so go here, player initiate. Initiate pointer and go to the game loop. We don't need, what is this? We don't need this. Player update. What's the topic? The theme for the game jam is waves. W-A-V-E-S. Okay, let's see if this crashes. Ugh, of course. Of course it doesn't work. Player update, player handler, player initiate, frames entire, frame timer. Come on, man. Yeah, it's a good topic. It's a good theme. It really is. Because there's a million and one things, but it's all about the waves of enemies and things like that. A lot of guys are going to do that, I think. This is where the GitHub game off. So it's a really good idea. It's just that I'm not really crazy about programming this kind of a game, but what are you going to do? Player texture source pointer equals spriteless current sprite. Well, time to start doing diagnostics. I know it's getting here. I'd be a great programmer. It is interesting, besides the fact that most people are making Vampire Survivors exactly. I'm gonna mess with this for because it's a 30-day thing. I mean, when I heard the wave, first thing I thought of is a Vampire Survivor clone. Let's think of actual wave that I thought was interesting. My wife and I talked about it, and she wanted me to make a fishing game. The little guy on a boat goes out, and then he gets a better boat. The more fishes he catches, and then you go out in deeper waters and catch other fish. Then you come back and you sell them in the store. And you get gold for selling your fish, and then get a bigger boat, go out in deeper water, get better fish, make more money, get a bigger boat, buy fish, more fish, stuff like that. Because she's a Stardew Valley player, and she loves Stardew Valley, and so she likes those kinds of simulation games, and you gotta think outside the box. Yeah, that's true. I thought about a game where it's a word game, like Yahtzee. I don't know if you guys know the game Yahtzee, but it's a dice game, and you have to fill in the boxes and stuff. But I couldn't get it to be a wave. how the thing fits in with waves. I couldn't figure out how the hell to do that. But that's what I'd really like to write a game that where you have it's a dice game, and you play and you fill in the blanks. You try and get a high score. And then maybe I was going to program some sockets, BSD sockets, for where you could actually play against somebody else. Program in a AI player. Computer. I know they call them AI players now, but when I was first started programming, a player was called a computer player, and they were all called computer. And so I just don't know how to make that kind of game, a Yahtzee kind of game, a wave. How does that fit in with waves? And I don't know. The fishing game, though, I mean, that's kind of easy. You're on the waves. Popeye the Sailor Man kind of thing. So, I don't know. But this game's already given me trouble. I've already canceled. I should be showing on the screen where this thing is, and it's not showing on the screen where it is. I thought of sound waves, yeah. So I started working on a horror game where you have to detect the monsters using devices to capture heat, sound, etc. That's what I said. Might not be bad, actually. One thing you gotta remember about these, I've been in a lot of these game jams. So when this is all over with, there were like 3,000 guys, 3,500 developers who signed up for this. That's not how many are going to submit a game. You usually get about 10%, 5 to 10%, sometimes 15%. Now in Ludum Dare, because that's so big and it's been around forever and a day, Ludum Dare you'll get like 50% of the people. So, and this, from what I understand, the more games you play, it's like Ludum Dare. You play the games, you're active in playing the games after it's over with. Then you move up in rank, and then your game shows up on the front page. And that's how you get your game played. So you're gonna have the guys who are playing the games, which let's say it's 10%. That's still 350 games you're gonna have to go through. Yeah, there's like 500 submissions. That's right. That's exactly right. So now you've got to go through and play like 500, or you got to play at least 100 games to get your ranking up high enough. Maybe not 100, 50 games. You got to play at least 50 games. Well, guys don't spend a whole lot of time on the game. So game jams in and of themselves do not breed good games. They breed games that can be played and are interesting within the first 5 to 10 minutes. Because guys, we're not going to play. I know I don't. And I'm pretty judicious about how I play the game and try and judge them. I even stream the games and stuff. But for instance, there was a game that I just tried to play in a game jam before, before this one. It was the Game Dev TV October Jam, and there was a game on there that I couldn't get to run. And the guy says, "Try it again. You need to do this." And I normally don't do that. I normally don't do that at all. But I decided, you know what, the game sounded interesting, so I did it, and the game was so cool. But I spent like 5 minutes trying to get to run, and then I downloaded it again, and then I spent some more time. So I spent like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, which is a long time. And then the game grabbed me, so I'm playing it for like 20 minutes or so. But yeah, most of the time, honestly, I was thinking on joining a game jam recently, but then schoolwork, thinking on using it for a college app. I will tell you, a 30-day game jam, you can do that. I mean, game jams could be a good experimental ground for testing an idea, right? I believe pressure will force you to finish things. Yeah. Well, I will tell you this: the most important thing out of a game jam, doesn't care even if you put a square on the screen and it moves around, and that's all it does. If that's all it does, then you finished it and you submit it and you get it up on itch.io and guys play it. It doesn't matter how great the game is. The hardest thing for a developer to do is to finish. Because there's always something that you never, and that's just software in general. When I was in the industry programming, a program was never finished. You just ran out of time. The management would say, I need this now, I need this now, I need this now. And listen, when I was working in the private sector, when I was working with a government contractor, when I was working as my own business, all of them, everything was, I know you want to put this in, but you don't have time. So a program is never finished. The program is just you run out of time. And that's what a game jam forces you to do. So the key, or the most important thing, is to just where is this? So sprite 0. Where is this guy at? Yeah, that's why I joined jams. I need something to force me to work. Yeah, me too. I'm the same way. X, Y. Oops, what am I doing? srceptr.2 pi underscore x. And actually it should be destination pointer. Make sure this is in the table. Player animation, X, Y, width, height. That's right. So player handlers will be X. Source pointer width times scale. Goal position dot x equals game divided by 2. We're gonna hard code this in. Let's see what's the what here. Equals let's try it now. Oh. Yeah. Sure, I forgot to. Yeah, there you go. There, happy. Where? How hard is it to player initiate? I call that. Game loop calls player update. Render clear. I don't know what the problem is here. Because I'm getting the render call. I can see it on my other screen over here. Okay. It's usually because I have a width and a height sometimes. Goal position dot x goal position dot y. I've done something wrong. Percentage f. Percent f. Oh, it's in the right place. Width and height. This is going to be something stupid. It always is. Dot width. Oh, wait a minute. No, player text. No, that's right. That's all right. Width. Height. Oh, width and height is 0. That's a problem. Source pointer dot pointing to width times scale. What is scale? Scale is 0.5. What's the problem here? Okay, let's hard code it. in here and see what's the one. So I'm going to take this out of there it is. How come this is not working? Goal position dot width equals source pointer point to width. All right, let's try this. What is source pointer? The position was right, so let's try this. Okay, then I don't get this. So width and height are 32 times scale. Scale is 0.5. Well, the only thing left to print out is the scale. Scale. It's the last one on the list. Scale is 0. How does that get changed? It's kind of sad that after the jam, the game don't get... Yeah, that is. You're right about that. It's kind of sad that after the game jam, the games don't get as much recognition. I remember playing a game that wasn't quite good at the end of the jam, but 2 weeks later, the devs made it incredibly fun. Yeah, it's the whole marketing thing. It's how you market. Guy could write the best game in the world, I watched Valheim. The guy who wrote Valheim, he didn't really have a YouTube channel. He didn't have anything. And I hadn't even heard of his game. And my wife accidentally downloaded it one day when it was on whatever that pre-release thing is called when they do that. And she downloaded it. We got it for $20. And I ranked Valheim, that game, I ranked that up there with World of Warcraft, Stardew Valley, big games, huge games. And that guy was all by himself in the very beginning, but he wasn't a marketer. But finally his game caught on, and I think he hired somebody, no, not demo, it's called something else. It's like pre-release, it's called early release, like that early release. Yeah, I think it's what it's called. Anyway, he did early release. He's still on early release. It's like 5 years later, but he's an odd duck. But he's a smart guy. He's a good dude. So anyway. But yeah, you're right. It's too bad because a lot of games that I've played and I've seen are really good. Early access, that's what it is, early access. And he's still on early access. And that game has sold almost 3 million copies in early access. Early access, but his early access is better than 80% of the games that are released as if they're finished. So yeah, he's an exceptional guy, and I've never seen his face. He won't show his face. He won't get interviewed, any of that stuff. He doesn't do that. So what is scale? Is scale a float? No, it's an int. I bet that's what the problem is right there. That's what the problem is. I just love it when I see it. I told you it's going to be something stupid. Because when I set it here in player handler at 0.5, you can't do that with an int. So it's going to round down to a 0. There it is. What a dummy. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I kind of like the 1.0. I kind of, no, that's good. Typing speed. Type speed, so I don't need this anymore. And okay, we're all good here. So we don't need this. What we need is, okay, so update actually does the update of the positioning and all that stuff. So we can get rid of this. Put this in here, which is the renderer. And we don't need this in here. So now in game loop we call player render, not player update. Coding gives so much dopamine. You see something work after hours. If it's just, they call it programmers. They call it something programmers high or programmers something. But that, yeah, I know. I used to get the same thing running. We had I used to work for an outfit, and we had a low-level Unix. The protocol was called bisynchronous protocol, which was a communications protocol, old school Unix protocol to talk back and forth through a network. And the guy who wrote and so you would buy like a board and it would have a bisync driver in it. But what would happen? So what would happen inevitably is that these bisync drivers were broken. So one of the owners of the company that I used to work for, he wrote his own bisync driver. And that bisync driver had a bug in it that took 2 years to figure out. But when that kid figured it out, his name was Nay. Nay was our debugger. He was a good debugger. I can code really fast, but I put bugs in. I mean, you just saw that should have been a float right from the beginning, but it wasn't. It was an int, and that was my fault, and I'm a dummy for doing it. And I just spent 45 minutes messing with this, putting in debug statements and all that other stuff. That's not good. But Nay's the one that found it. We had a bug one time. I used to write cop software too. You know, all the EMS, fire and EMS software. That was when a police officer pulls up behind you and he types in your license plate and he checks to see if you got any tickets. I worked on that software when it was in infancy. In Florida, I worked on it when they had what they were called KDTs, and which are keyboard data terminals. And I wrote that software, or I worked on the software. And we had a bug one time, when we were trying to put a system in Baltimore. And it would just pop up like every once in a while, like once or twice a month. You would see it, maybe even a little bit more. We couldn't figure it out. And then finally one day, we were capturing all the data going between the policemen, police, fire, and EMS. All the communications, we captured it all. And then one day we caught it. We caught what was causing it, and we found out there was a call sign for one of the chief of police, and he wouldn't come out very often. But his car had a number on it, his call sign and his number, when it was coming through the communications, would trip. Our parser would see it as a command to do something instead of it just being the call sign. And it would trip an error. It would go out and try and do something, pull something from the database, and bring the whole system down. But it took us 2 years to find that. But man, when we found that, it was good. So anyway, yeah. So finding bugs and you get a high from that. That's for sure. You get the dopamine. Oh, now what? Unidentified source pointer equals. Oh, sorry, my bad. See, now this is why I will say this. This is why I use this compiler. Because see how I just caught that? This is an error, uninitialized local variable. In regular C, normal C, you just run that and it crashes around you. So I see that you define your variables type with all caps. Is that a macro or something? No, it's something I learned. All my defines are in here. And then I type def stuff, try and keep it consistent. But this is something I learned when I first started coding in that Unix shop. They did all this, and I don't use macros because the problem with macros is that they can get really complicated. I've seen macros that are like lines and lines and lines and lines. In fact, the guy, if you take a look, if you ever listen to Sean Barrett, I know I keep talking about him, but if you listen to him and about his stuff, he's got these huge, gigantic macros, and if they ever break, trying to reverse engineer them or go back in and fix them is not good. You see, I don't document them. All my stuff is the names of the stuff is what documents my program. So I named this function called player render. Well, what does it do? Well, it renders the player. Player update. What does it do? It updates the player, and that's exactly what it does. And then I try to make all of my variable names very descriptive because I don't. Sometimes you'll see in in this, see my structure. Every once in a while, I'll put in comments because I get lost really easy. But someone was asking earlier about animations. So let's see if I can show you how it works. Let's see. I like this paint.net. It's free and man, it works like nobody's business. So if I take this, I'm going to try and make a little fake animation here. I'm horrible. You can see it. I'm just bad at this. Oops, see that? I'm an old man. I can't be doing this. But I really like paint.net. So what was I doing before here? Hey. See, that's what happens when you don't lift the pencil. Here. And then I'm just horrible at this. Is there a line function in here? That was easier. Alright, well this is enough. So I got 1, 2, 3 here. So what you do is you go into the, yeah, actually we're going to do this one more time here. Where's my line thing? There it is. Okay, so we save this, because I usually forget to save it. We go into the game. We go into tables. So this is the first sprite here. This one 0, 0. Now the width and the height are always going to be the same. So now the next one starts at 32, but it stays at the y coordinate is 0, stays at 0. And then the next one is at 64. And then we can take go back 32 and then 0. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 frames now for the player animation. Oops, what am I doing? So we go back into player handler, frames and timer 8, frame timer 0, number of sprites, so we have 5 now. Current sprite is 0. So that should maybe give us an animation. I guess we'll find out here. Doesn't crash and burn. Wonderful. See how well that works? Frames and timer. Current sprite. Wait, where's the number of current sprites? Max sprites is 5. Current sprite is 0. Frame timer is 0. Frames and timer is 8. Current sprite. Max sprites is 5. What's the problem? What's the problem? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0, 1, 2. X is 32. X is 64. Back to 32, back to 0. Oh, I know why. Have to call update. Because 1 updates and 1 renders. See how much better that is? God dang it. If I put update in here instead of render, we wouldn't have this problem. It's going to be one of those days I can just feel it. There. See the animation there? Kind of like going to the music a little bit there. Dun, 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 dun. If I could slow it down instead of having 8 frames. Let's try 6. Oh, it's too fast. I guess 8 was pretty close. Anyway, that's how the animations work. And if you want to move him, I'm just going to move him. I'm going to hard code move him. PI pointer, pointer PI underscore goal position dot X plus equals I don't know, 0.1. That should move him along the x-axis to the right, hopefully. Yep, there he goes. So now in these survivor games, you don't move the XY coordinates. So I did some research. You have a little on your mouse, on your phone, you have a little button. And if you're holding the button down, then he just moves at a set speed. You can't speed him up or slow him down or anything like that. And then he moves in the direction of your mouse. So I guess this could actually work. I should make it move a little bit faster though than this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say player speed. So player speed times delta time. I have my own delta time calculator in here. So player speed, where's my player stuff at? I don't have any player stuff in here, okay. Pound define player speed. I don't know, 10. Nope, no semicolon. I'm gonna throw errors. It's a little slow. Still a little slow. Let's try 30. What the heck? What am I saying? What am I doing here? It's hard to get anything. It's hard to believe I get anything programmed. Nope. That's not bad. Let's try 40. Actually, you know what? Let's try 50. I'm trying to mess around here. That's good. That'll work. It's not bad. I got laundry I gotta go fix here real quick, so yeah, I'll do that. And I'll be back. It's my bird. It's Sammy. He screams when I leave the room. Then he gets over it. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do something here, just for laughs. Actually, okay, we're gonna make a new item called test stuff. Engineer test underscore initiate. I always put one of these in because I never know when I'm going to need to mess with something. Test underscore update. Test underscore render. Sounds like some screaming. Okay, so initiate. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go into structures. Okay, I always put my testing crap at the end because I don't want to have to go looking for it. So pointer player info. Players. Player table. Okay. So we go to test stuff. We're gonna say max test players. I just want to see that if I lose any. You know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to do this the old-fashioned. I shouldn't say the old-fashioned way, but okay. So this is going to be an array of pointers. Max test players. I'm going to start with 100. What am I doing? First day program, max test players. So we say that what am I doing here? Come on, come on, come on. test player table. That way I don't forget. Equals SDL_calc. One comma space size underscore player info. Pointer. Okay. And then we let's go to player handler. You have like 12 CPP files, but only 3 headers. How are you connecting them together? Up top, right here. All the defined structure and prototype. That's the only. These are the only headers I ever use. I mean, these headers here are part of the libraries. SDL library and the sound library is there. These are standard C and C++ libraries. But I define them in each one. What I used to do was I would make one file for all my headers, and I would list all my headers, and I would just include that. I called it global header or something, but I haven't done that in a while. So my 3 headers are in every file. You'll take a look here, there, there. So they're all in every file, and I just include them. And that's how they're connected together. PI pointer. I wonder if this will work. Yep. Spy animation, blah 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 blah. Goal position is okay. So now we update. Why is this a problem? This is an array of pointers. I don't need this. I don't need any of this. Oh, I did it again. Okay, so now we go to player update. same direction. I don't want to do that. So we're going to do this here. We're not going to do this. Equals. I don't have my utility in here yet. Add new item. Utilities. CPP. So I have my own random number generators and blah blah blah. So random. Util random float range. Where's my prototype for this? Oh, there it is. There we go. So equals util underscore random float range. Minimum is going to be, I don't know, 20. Maximum is going to be, this is X, right? So 1900. And then this is going to be the same thing. Random 20, says 1080, it's going to be 1060. Where's spies? Okay. That's good. So now we have them starting everywhere. And that should be good right there. And then so we call it test update, and we call it test render. Do this here. This is test render here. Let's see. Nope, not this. And not this. Okay, so there we go. So it's called test initiate in I don't have them in my prototype. Nope, sure don't. Okay. So now let's go back to game loop. Oh no, rather to initialize application test. Imitate. Yes, let's go initiate, which is very similar to test initiate. Now Now we go back to the game loop. Score update. Okay, let's see if this will compile. Uh-oh, something's wrong. So how many did I say I had in there? 100? Let's make it 1,000. Let's see how the frame rate goes with that. Wow, that'll mess up your eyeballs. Doesn't linking all the libraries to Visual Studio suck? Yeah, it does. I will tell you though, I've got it down to its science now. I put everything in a place I know where it is. And the only two libraries I have to link now are, so you go to VC directories and you have to link the directories. So in here is where my stuff is. So for the include directories, I have just 3 places actually. For some reason you have to, even though the compiler knows where the project is, you have to include the project directory to include the header files. So this is where, see, it's SDL3 October 11th. This is the most recent version that I have of actually SDL3. And then the sound thing, the mixer, I've had this for a while. And I compiled that myself, and that's where that is. So just link them in here, and that's good to go. And then for the libraries, they're usually in the same place, only under lib and not under include. So like this is lib here, except for the mixer is in another weird place, but anyway. So also what you can do is you can take the libraries and move them. Then the problem is you can move the libraries into the folder for the development and just point to the libraries in there. So anyway, those 2 libraries, and then under the linker, under input, you just list the libraries you're going to use, which is SDL3 .lib and SDL3 _mixer.lib. So when I first started using it, yeah, it sucked. I'll tell you which one sucks is Raylib. Raylib's the worst. They actually have a batch file that runs it for you, but it still sucks. Although Raylib, I liked Raylib because Raylib had some embedded 3D stuff to put cubes and spheres on the screen and stuff like that, and it had a collision handler that was pretty good. But so yeah, I get it. So that's 1,000 of them. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna mess with this one more time. I'll fix this later. Player. So we're going to use float. PI_DIICTION. Direction X. Direction Y. Okay. So now we're going to test stuff. PI pointer PI_direction X equals, actually, let's do this. dir. dir equals util underscore random int range address a GI pointer pointing to range state comma space 0 comma space 1. I think that's what it is. So equals dir equals so glad I found out about CMake so I wouldn't have to suffer with that linking stuff. I used to use make files when I was working in Linux and Unix. We used nothing but make files. But I'm not going to fight City Hall here in Windows. Dir equals, so dir equals 0. Direction x equals negative 1.0. 1.0. See how I caught that? That's why I mean, I'm not that crazy about it. Y. Direction Y. Okay, so now when we update, player speed times, see if this even works, times PI pointer point to PI underscore direction X. So I might get him going in all kinds of direction. Let's see. Direction Y. Alright, see what happens here. See how horrible this looks. Nice. That'll work. So let's do, how many do we have now? We have 1,000. Let's do 3,000. 3,000 sprites on the screen at the same time. Oops, I gotta change my frame rate checker here. Where is game loop? I want to see I want to watch what the frame rate is for this. See if it slows down at all. I will tell you this. You get up around 5,000 in Godot, and man, it just bogs down. Oh yeah, look at that. Frame rate didn't even move. Frame rate doesn't even move. Still 80 frames a second. Wow. So how much is it? 3,000. Let's try. Oh, let's go for it. 10,000. Frame rate didn't even budge. Didn't even move. Wow. If somebody's epileptic, they're doomed. Oh, this is cool. Let's see if I can break it. I don't want to break it, but that's the game is handling it a bit. Oh, well, YouTube is it? Oh, it isn't? Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry. We're gonna go for the big mamma jamma, 50,000. This ought to crash and burn it. We might lose everything here, boys. Here we go. There you go. 50,000. Nope. Not even losing frame rate. Wow. 50,000. I love SDL, man. It's the bomb. $50,000 on the screen. Didn't even drop the frame rate. So let's do this. Where's the player speed? Let's make the player speed 200. Then I'm going to add one more thing this time. Then I'm done messing around. And here we go. Whoa! Didn't drop the frame rate at all. Well, that wouldn't drop it. Should I do 100,000? Oh, let's do 100,000. This might kill it. This actually might kill it. Let's go, 100,000. Here we go. Oh gosh, there we go. Yeah, nope. We dropped it for a second on initialization. That was it. Nope. So what happened was initialization dropped it to 78. You can see it here. Dropped it to 78. I have a delay, how long the delay is. So it's getting closer. So I can have 100,000 on the screen and not mess with the frame rate. And if I have a handler in there that adjusts the frame rate automatically if it gets too low. So yeah. 100,000 of these things. So I like the 50,000 thing. So what does it look like on YouTube? Is it like one big red mesh? Don't forget, it's doing, in between all those, it's doing the animation too. It's doing that 5-frame animation in there as well. So let's do this. Where's the update? Okay. If PI pointer point to PI underscore. It's pretty pixelated. Yeah, I'll bet it is. It's PI pointer. Well, that's because, you know, yeah. PI pointer point to PI underscore global position dot x is greater than or equal to 1920. Oh, come on, man. Or is less than or equal to 0, then PI pointer point to PI underscore direction x times equals -1.0 f. If y is greater than or equal 1080 and y is less than 0, direction y. So that keeps it all on the screen, hopefully. So what do I have it up to now? It's up to 50. So let's put it back down to 100 so I can see what the hell's going on here. It's like Pong. If you watch them, they look like Pong. But I gotta be able to handle a whole bunch if I'm gonna do this Survivor IO game. So let's do 10,000. Now, do a million? Oh man, yeah, I don't know about a million. I'll do it, but I don't know what's going to happen. So there's 10,000. There's 100,000. There's a million. I'll make sure it's a million. 0. Okay. Okay, here we go. And frame rate drops to 5, 8. Yeah. It ran though. It's pixelated as hell, but still, I'm getting 8 frames a second. I'm surprised it ran. That's a million of them up there, and they're not leaving the screen. It's pretty cool. Gotta love SDL3. You gotta love it. About 500,000. I'll about slow it down a little bit. Dropped it down to like, I don't know. Here it is. 17 frames a second. I'm never going to have more than 100,000 on the screen. I mean, just so even read. If I exceed 10,000, it's going to be nuts. Yeah, you can see frame rate, 80 frames a second. What a good engine. Or engine, what a good framework. Anyway. Alright, what time is it? Yeah, I gotta get some breakfast. So I'm gonna have some breakfast and fool around for a while, see if there's anything to do, and then I'll be back. So take care, guys. Thanks for hanging. And I'll see you when I see you. Bye-bye for now.